Hi, Kevin. Are you able to hear me okay? Okay, perfect. So it looks like they are able to hear us okay. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes. And I do have my colleague.
In the meeting or no?
I'm sorry?
I'm in.
Okay, if I can kindly request everyone to mute their phone lines or just go on mute on their computer windows. I have my colleague, Veronique, who would be walking us through the demo, and I'll be doing a bit of the talking, and she and I would be tag teaming, predominantly to make sure that we could show you the product. And we're recording the session, so we'll be happy to share the screen with you as well, Kevin and Roxana. So hope we'll make it right this time.
You will now be placed into the conference. This call is being recorded.
Please do go on the mute line.
Somebody mute your phone?
Yeah, you guys have to mute the phone line, please. Okay, perfect.
And I just want to apologize in advance. This is Veronique. I have some pretty bad seasonal allergies, but I will be staying on the line. You might be able to hear me sniffling in the background, so I apologize for that.
Hey, that's human as it gets. All right, so let us get started because we are recording this, so I think it maximize our time that we have together. So once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Sincerely apologize for the technical difficulties the previous week. We're sincerely hoping that through the session, we can give you a glance for what the product can do for you as a legal professional, and hopefully you would consider, as an institution, exploring the use of uLaw to hopefully teach certain components of legal accounting, practice management, and business accounting as well. Okay? So we're going to first start off, just cut to the chase, by showing you some baby steps that we take to go through the process of doing a client intake. And I would greatly appreciate if you could kindly mute your phone lines. That way, I think we could get going. I know it's a busy time for all of us in the morning. So please do mute the phone lines as you're going to be mostly listening in. And if you have a question, you can always unmute or use the chat window, please, to ask any questions that you may have. Okay? Alrighty, so we're going to get started with adding a new client. So Veronique, if you can kindly go into the contacts. So the first step is really clicking on contacts. This is where, as I mentioned, we're able to store all of the contact information of people and parties that you as a legal firm are going to come across in your legal life, right? So this could be your own clients. So contacts could mean your clients. And as we're indicating, it could be ghost clients, friends, co-workers. It could be the other party, the opposing party. It could be the opposing legal representative, So there's many different people and information that you have, contact information, and this is where you store them all. To start with adding a new client, you would click on the Add New Contact button that you see on the top left. And now you have the option of adding the contact to any such group that you choose to. And we'll start with the clients. So we'll start with adding to the clients. Now what you see on the right-hand side is a simple client intake form. Okay, so every legal firm has a process to add client information so that they can then conduct various different tasks, create a client, create a matter, maybe run a conflict check, all those good things that you do. So we'll start off with maybe creating a a fake imaginative client. So Jason Martin, and some important pieces of information that we capture is the source of contact. As you can see, that's one drop-down that we have. It really allows you as a legal firm to capture how did Mr. Martin get to know you and your legal firm, okay? So we're logged in as a fictitious legal person, Roger Moore, and he is the one who's using the uLawPractice to enter this information. And we just say, all right, it's actually from the Google marketing effort that the firm put in, right? Now, the source of contact is not just a cool marketing data. It's also a law society compliance for you, because they would maybe ask you for a source of contact report, and uLaw generates that automatically, and we'll show you that as well. So you can continue to add the client, put some address, phone number, and if you put the phone number in, you can also download our app and call the client directly, docket that effort, all that cool stuff happens. But today we're just going to put a phone number and then hit the save button on the top left. And what this does is, as you can see on the top middle, it says saving contact. It's basically going to save this Mr. Martin's contact information into our database in the cloud and give you access to Mr. Martin's information anywhere, anytime, as long as you have internet connected, either using your phone's app for uLaw or just logging into the web application like we've done today, okay? So you can see you've got the basic information, you've got the Umbrella Inc., you've got the address in Ottawa, and you could start off by doing one of the first steps that we do as soon as you enter a client's information is, before you can create a file or a matter, is to, of course, do what we call as a conflict check, right? So in uLaw, there's two familiar or buttons that you would like to get yourself familiar with. One is the action button. That's where, a lot of the action happens, if you will, whether that's data entry related or if it's a specific function that's specific to that line of business. So you could see under action, we have the conflict check, the middle option. And if we were to run that conflict check, you can do simple conflict checks, or you can basically just check all those boxes. And uLaw would conduct a very comprehensive conflict check for you. Once again, I kindly request if you can kindly mute your phone lines. That would really help us. Alrighty. So we now have the conflict check report. We'll get that report in a minute.
While we're waiting, would you like to see the client ID verification form?
Sure thing. Let's go ahead and click on the client ID verification form. And essentially what happens with the client ID verification is, again, this is a law society document that making this really part of your process, part of your day-to-day activities is going to help you stay compliant, just from day one, right? This is a document that they would ask you for in an audit, basically saying, what piece of information did you capture to determine that this is really Mr. Martin? So, you could come down and say, I got his, driver's license, birth certificate, or any other piece of ID that I'd use to identify this individual, okay? And you can see we've already pre-documented a lot of the information. So we're jumping back into the conflict screen. So uLaw has run the entire database, and it's pretty much gotten a few last name conflicts, as Vera was highlighting. It's called Martin, which is pretty much with the Jason Martin last name. It also gets the first name for Martin. So there's a Martin and a Martina. There's Martin Russell, Martin Fisher. And we also go to the extent of getting sounds like. So if you look at the names that sound similar, though it's misspelt, it says Jason, sounds like Jason. So uLaw has the feature functionality to also capture sounds like name, which is very important. Sometimes when you have, certain names that are sometimes misspelled. Okay, so this gives you, and if you actually go further down in the report, this report is date stamped. So it tells you right away that it's on the 1st of June 2020 is when you ran this report. So you can then have this document as a proof or actually generate it at any time. Or in fact, I would rather recommend that you download this document, keep it as proof because you ran this conflict check on 1st of June, and that's what helped you determine an AA or an A with regards to moving forward with the client. If you are comfortable with representing this client, you're going to move forward with creating a matter. If you're not comfortable because maybe there's a conflict and you really cannot represent this client, then you're going to sign a non-engagement letter which says, I'm sorry, I don't think I can work with you. And we have all those letters in our document generation as well. But let's consider for the purposes of today's demo that everything is fine and we're just going to go ahead with the next step of creating a matter. So Vero, if you wouldn't mind, I just want to run the source of contact report prior to us showing them. Yeah, go ahead.
Just before we do that, I saw in the chat someone had asked a question. Did you see that?
Okay, I will check that right away. How secure would you say the mobile application is? Are there any limitations as to what to do through the mobile app compared to the web version? That's a fantastic question. Yes, the mobile app, I wouldn't say limitation. We've tried to maximize the use of the mobile app for its purpose. But from a feature perspective, yes, you are unable to, let's say, generate invoices, all those big ticket items that need a lot of crunching of data, especially generating PDFs and stuff like that. We don't do that on the mobile. The mobile app, of course, it's secure because it's a native app. So we go through the entire security check of Apple, which is very stringent. We go through the entire security check of the Android before we release it onto the Play Store. So from a perspective of security, that's the highest level of security that we can accomplish because it goes through the process of getting it approved through these major two players in the marketplace. So any app that you have, that's the same level of security they go through. In terms of features and functionalities, you could do client intake right from your mobile app, right? You can dock it right from your mobile app. You are able to run dashboards that gives you top-of-the-line data in terms of performance and things of that nature. So there are many things that you can do with the mobile app that are really just in time, are handy. You're on the go and you need to do something real quick. Those are the functionalities that we have. We're slowly looking to expand the features that we're going to add to our mobile app. But some of the core features that I just mentioned is what's there in our mobile app. So hopefully that answered that question.
It seems like it did. Okay, so the source of contact report, I went up under document generation. And let's just say for the quarter.
Yeah, so the source of contact report, it's a very interesting document. It basically tells the auditor, what are the different sources of areas from which you're getting these clients in, right? Because sometimes they don't, they frown upon a firm just being a referral firm. So they want to make sure that your firm is actually engaged in representing clients and you're just not a marketing firm that calls itself a legal firm and just passes along leads, right? So this document, gives them that satisfaction that you are a true legal firm and it's true to its name. And here's the variety of areas from which you're getting clients. Of course, it also translates into a phenomenal marketing document that you could now use to validate and have the right data support the right marketing initiative, right? So if you can see a good 24% of your clients that you have done an intake to come from your family, There's about 6 that have not been categorized. So maybe at the point in time when you did the client intake, the person really didn't have much of an answer. So maybe you asked, like, how did you get to know us? And they're like, I don't know, right? Maybe they called through the end of the matter and said, I remember now, I think I found you guys on Facebook, or I found you on, it's a friend of mine who referred you. You can then use this report. If you come further down in this report, we tell you the 6 individuals whose contacts are not categorized. So you have Jonathan, Doug, Taj, John. All these individuals are the ones in this quarter we know that you don't have a contact for source of contact. So you can go back into our contacts, edit any of this information like John or anyone else, right? Just like how we did here, and then enter the source of contact and hit save. That helps update the database on a regular basis. Okay?
And Christine, we had another question.
Yeah.
Where was it?
I'll look at that. Is there an option in the conflict check that also checks for the maiden name? The client has a new last name. Yes, it checks. The database checks for, when you say it all matters, it checks the maiden name as well, the first, middle, or maiden, and the last name. That's a good question. Yes, that is correct. Okay. Thanks, Vero. Thanks for keeping me honest. Sometimes I don't get to see this chat window come up on my mobile phone. All right, let's move along if there aren't any more questions. So within the last 5 to 7 minutes, what Vero was able to show you is how to do a quick client intake. We ran the source of contact report. We did the conflict check. We also created your own report to ensure that the client ID verification. All that within the last 7 minutes. Something that you would have to do on a day-to-day basis. Okay? So, Vero, if you want to go ahead and create a file.
So, at the very least, for every matter, you'll need a simple title. I really have no point of reference for what kind of example to use.
No, that's okay. Sorry, I apologize. I went on mute. Let's use small claims matter if that's okay. Or maybe friends in the call, you can help us if small claims is fine. Okay, there's a quick question about business card scanning. It's a feature that we're introducing into our mobile app. Of course, with the COVID situation, we're taking a bit of a step back. But yes, we're certainly bringing that feature into our mobile app, hopefully by end of July or August. We should have that feature in our app. It's not going to be on the mobile version, most certainly on the app. So I've hopefully answered that question. So moving along, we're going to create the file, and let's just call it small claims for now, right? So we have 2 options here. One is to enter the name or the title of this file. So maybe we say it's Jason versus Steffi, right? Or this could be Jason slip and fall matter. Whatever is the specificity of that particular file or matter, you can put that in there. And then the drop-down is a configurable list of items that you could use to categorize that file or matter. Okay, so you could create your own list. Really coming down to your area of practice. We even have our own clients, even if you focus on, let's say, just 2 areas, small claims and LATB. Maybe that's all you do, or you may be doing other 2 areas. We have people who also categorize this based on geography. They say small claims, Peel, small claims, Niagara, so you can really categorize this and be very smart about how you categorize it. And okay, sorry, someone can kindly go on mute. I think we're hearing a bit of a disturbance in the background, please. We kindly request everyone to just click the mute button, or you can click on the little red button on the Join Me screen. That will mute your phone line. All right, so let's go ahead and click Save. That's all the information we're going to ask you for when you start creating a file. Just the title and an area of practice that that particular matter falls under, okay? So once you click Save, you can see right away this screen is probably one of the most used screens in uLaw, because this is where you're going to create the file, This is the screen that makes you the money, right? So this is the screen where you're going to add retainers, you're going to generate the dockets and disbursements. This is the screen you use to generate the invoices. This is the screen you use to accept payments or do trust transfers. So this is a very important screen, the Matter screen, and you have quite a few options here. Now, not to get overwhelmed with these options, the superset, if none of these buttons, if they're too colorful and too bright and too many, the superset or the mother load of all the options is under the Action button. So if you click on the Action button on the top left, any action that you can take, creating a new retainer, adding a new retainer agreement, adding a new retainer, anything that you want to do. This is the superset of all the features. But what we've done is we've taken what we call as the hotspot buttons, the top actions that you would take in a Matter, and we've spread it across in colorful buttons on the top. That's all. So the top used buttons, or the hot buttons as they call it. Now, we could start with a simple retainer agreement, but I'm just going to, if you would like, if you can kindly use the chat window, Roxana and Kevin, let me know if you'd like us to use the example of a retainer, or maybe you'd just like us to docket, disperse, or docket and generate an invoice and go through the process. Just let us know through the chat window if you can. Retainer? Okay, perfect. All right. Let's start with the retainer. Now, uLaw gives you, to start with, a lot of retainer templates. So if I click on document generation, or in fact, yeah, sure, go ahead. That's perfect. Again, document generation is a superset of all the documents that you can generate within uLaw, right? This is where you can create invoices. This is where you can create a retainer letter. And there's quite a few different types of retainer letters and samples. You have simple, elaborate, flat rate. And one cool feature about this is that you can also generate this in an MS Word. And when you generate a retainer letter in an MS Word, as you can appreciate, if you have your Office 365 or MS Office in your laptop, you are able to tweak and edit that document. So let's go ahead and let's say you're collecting a retainer of $750, right? And you're going to generate a retainer letter in Word. And as you can see, as Veronique has brought up that Word document, we have now pre-populated as much as information as we know regarding the contacts, client information, the document itself. So you know this is from Roger Moore, who's the lawyer, could be a paralegal, could be a legal professional. You've got Jason Martin, who's the client, his address. You've got the file name that came from where we mentioned Jason was Stephanie. You've got a file number, which is what uLaw generates for you. And if you have a court number at that stage of the file, you can enter it, and we'll put that in as well. Now, you could see this document also has pre-populated the retainer that you entered, so you don't have to type it again. And this is a very fairly simple retainer letter, and you can change this, right? So if you go to slightly to the top and you say you want to change the services provided section 4, or whichever section, Veronica, you feel fit, you could say, yeah, I can add to this saying I will be using, electronic medium to communicate with you given the current COVID situation or something like that, right? So you can really add to a template that we help with a starting point. Can you edit the original template? We allow you to generate the Word document and then tweak that document. We don't let you edit that's one way of editing the template, but the original template, this is the only way you can edit it, is create a Word document and edit it that way. Alrighty. So let's say you've generated that Word document, you've printed it, or maybe you put a digital signature on it. Okay, I think someone's actually gone mute or put us on hold. All right. So let's power through this, I guess. So let's say you've got $750 as a retainer, right? Now, you're going to enter the retainer that dentist paid you. So how do you do that? Is we have this tab called disbursement/retainer, like the English word. And right there you have this button called New Retainer. Okay? And if you click that, it brings up a simple pop-up screen. This is a very typical data entry screen in uLaw that allows you to capture the dollars involved. All right? Now you can tell us how someone paid you for this retainer. There's a check. It could be an electronic deposit. Could have been any format. And then you, perfect. You could put the, description and really clearly tell us where you're depositing that money. So in this case, it's going to be the CIBC trust account that the money is going into. And uLaw allows you to create these placeholder accounts that mimic the real life accounts that you have in real life, right? So and I've chosen the CIBC account, and then I could go ahead and, in fact, Vero, if you don't mind, can you just choose the last option, which is the TD? I believe the CIBC is pretty heavy, so perfect.
Oh, yeah.
So we've used the TD bank account. There you go. You've got the whole information. And when you're ready, you can click on the receipt button, the checkbox rather. There you see it. And hit the apply button because now you're going to apply that $750 retainer into this file. Please do help us by going on the mute so that we can power through this. So thank you. So you can customize and configure this retainer receipt. As Vero showed, you could create a hot pink template. And this has all the basic information that it needs. Who was it received from? And it's got the amount. If someone else paid on behalf of Jason, you could say Steve Martin paid on behalf of Jason Martin. You can put that information too. It has the $1,050. You can digitally sign this if you have a signature, and you're done with this. So we've done a retainer letter for $750 for a simple matter. We have other templates that we'll be happy to show you at a later time. We've entered now that retainer that you just received from the client in the form of an email transfer that they paid you that got deposited into your trust account. And now we're just going to move forward with showing you how you would docket and disperse. Okay? So if I were to start with the docketing, in uLaw we call it events. Now events could be any type of docketing because we give you the flexibility to do it as a billable time. You could do a flat rate. You could do the entire matter to be a flat rate, or you can mix and match between billable time and flat rate within a matter too. So as Veronica just showed you, double click on that billable time allows you to toggle it into a flat rate. There you go. And now once it's a flat rate, you enter dollar amount. If it's a billable time, of course, you enter the time that you've spent. And you can, using our settings, easily personalize the per hour rate that you would be charging your client. Let's say if you're going to be charging on a billable time basis, you can set what those costs are because every firm is different when it comes to costs. You could see we put a flat rate of $650. That's the idea. So you can either put a flat rate or you can put billable time. So we can show you how to delete this. So at the extreme right, you see an X button against each and every docket. And you can use that X button to delete that and then click save, and the docket is taken out. Okay? Now, let's say we've got this flat rate of maybe, Veronique, do you want to just do like 500 and then maybe we'll add a disbursement too, or 650 is fine? Perfect. So let's say we do 500 and click save. By default, uLaw would take the 500, add the taxes of $65. Again, based on where you're from. If you're in your settings, you're from an Ontario law firm, then we know it's the Ontario charges. you can always override it. The immediate next question is, what if I'm not charging taxes? You can click on the edit button, and where you see the default tax rate, you can make that 0 and hit save. So you're now explicitly telling uLaw that for this particular small claims matter for Mr. Martin, you're going to override the tax and not charge him taxes. And now you see the flat rate is at $500 rather than $565. So just keep in mind it's a fairly flexible docketing system. Now, we have not yet invoiced this effort, right? We've just put in the effort. Now, we use the description box next to the line item next to the legal fees. And this is where you can really expand on what specificity you want to enter with regards to this matter, right? Whether you're encapsulating the effort within a single docket like we're doing right now, saying step 1, step 2, step 3, final closure. Fantastic. I like that. One of the oldest texts I've ever seen in my life, hello world. And this is very important because this is the information that also gets reflected in your invoice so that that clearly articulates the effort and what you've done for the money that you're asking from your client, right? So in this particular example, we've said the entire matter is a flat rate matter and you're just using a single docket to represent the whole matter. You could have individual dockets, so instead of 1, 2, 3 being a part of the description, you can just add one single, yeah, exactly. You could say legal fees, I did this then. We give you the flexibility to backdate all these dockets. So you can click on the date on the extreme left of it, and you can basically just backdate this effort. Even if you're not docketing by each and every docket, you can make that docket, as Vero did, as 0. And then you can add one final docket, which represents the effort and cost, right? So that's one way of doing it, the flat rate. So this gives you the fair flexibility to either use multiple dockets within billable time flat rate or use just a single docket to encapsulate the entire effort done for that matter. Now let's add a disbursement, right? So let's just add to the mix. And just as the label sounds disbursement/retainer, you would click on the tab, disbursements, and there you go. You have add new disbursement. Now, as you can appreciate, you can also add disbursement from your trust. You may have paid out a trust disbursement, because some law firms or legal firms use trust, and in fact, you should use the trust as a vehicle to pay for your disbursements so that, you know, you're not making the mistake of paying on behalf of the client and then waiting for them to pay. But in the case of this, where you have a retainer, it makes clear sense where you can pay this off your trust, right? So you can enter the check number and basically say, you know what, I'm paying this trust out of my, or I'm paying this disbursement out of my trust account. So we'll show you the more complicated version. But, you know, the general norm is most of them paid out of their general account, include it in the invoice, and then do the trust transfer. So if you paid off your trust, you do not, of course, have to reflect it in the invoice and do the trust transfer. If you do not pay it from your trust, and if you paid it off your general, as you probably know, you include it in the invoice and then do the trust transfer. All righty. Yep. So now what we're showing you is how you can add this from your general account. Say, all right, so let's say there's a courier fees for $25. Now, this is the beauty of the uLaw product. Now, because we are also a business accounting software, the top part is the disbursement for your client, right? So that's where the client's record keeping says it's a disbursement. The bottom part is really telling your own firm, well, I hope someone's all right, really telling your own firm, how did you pay for that courier fees, right? So in this case, we're saying we paid this out of an indirect payment using our TD general account. So maybe it was a debit card payment that you paid for. So this allows you to capture the moment both from the perspective of the client as well as the perspective of your own firm, because that helps you with your taxes. It helps you with your expenses, your expense ledger, expense report, and every other audit and CRA document that you need to see, okay? Expense book. So let's go ahead and click Save. And you're going to notice that that $25 and the $50 gets paid, one from trust and one from general. And now you notice on the top right, the projected balance is $171.75. That's the projected balance. It's not the actual balance. It's basically telling you that if you were to generate an invoice right now, that's the money that technically will be left behind in your account. Now, once you've docketed dispersed, depending on the retainer letter and the cycle of payment arrangement that you've made, some legal firms generate an invoice as soon as the work is done. Some law firms generate invoices after a certain period of time. So let's assume you're ready to invoice this particular docket. You would click on the Invoice button that you see here in the middle. And you have a few options here. You can generate a pre-bill. That gives you almost like a harmless invoice with no invoice number for your eyes only, so that you can make sure everything looks good, nothing has changed, and if you have to change, you can easily change it. Make sure you're comfortable with the look and feel of it, and then decide to generate a complete invoice. So, Vero, if you want to just maybe quickly draw a pre-bill or preview, and we'll show them real quick. Alrighty. So here's the pre-bill, which has this watermark called preview, so that you don't accidentally send it to your client. And you'll also notice there's no invoice number to this pre-bill, but it has all the other information you've entered, right? It's got the legal fees. When you put the legal fees as a billable item, we also, if you like, you could show the client that, hey, I typically would charge you $400 per hour, but I'm being the good person here, and I'm not charging you by the hour. I'm just charging you by the docket, the entire matter as a flat fee of $500. In fact, I'm being so nice, I'm not even charging you taxes. So the total legal fees is $500. And then it's a running bill. So if you come down further, you're going to see all the disbursements. So there's the courier charge. Now you do not see the other $50 charge because it's not a general payment. You're going to see this in the next page, which has any transaction that touches the trust account. So you have two transactions that have touched the trust account. One transaction is where the money came into the trust account for $750 of a retainer that they paid you. The other transaction was money going out of the trust account, which was for the disbursement that you did for the court fee of $50. So this keeps you and your firm, your client happy, as well as your auditors happy, right? Because you've got it all. And the last page, of course, summarizes all of this. Now, does it have to be a 4-page document? It doesn't have to be. We have eco-friendly options, so you can reduce the amount of paper. But most of today's clients of ours use this in a digital format. So they just wrap this as a PDF to send it with an electronic signature. Not many of them actually print this. Okay? So let's go ahead and do a complete invoice. And I'll click the Invoice button for that. And this is where you wait to download. And then once it's ready, you hit the download button, and we generate the actual invoice, which actually would have an invoice number. It would not have the watermark of pre-bill, but it would have all the remaining pieces of information that you need. Okay? You can add your own.
The eco-friendly one, everything here is on the same page. It's much shorter.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, Ro. Yeah, we've really reduced it to 2 or 3 pages instead of 4. You can add your own letterhead. You can add your own logo. We have different templates that introduce your own letterhead and logo into the mix. So you can always reprint it. And then where you see the teams, you can go up to the default team or any other team and the default theme actually incorporates your letterhead and your logo as well. Right
This
at the
one
top.
happens to be blank.
Yeah, I think this one, there is no letterhead or logo. But there's many other templates. There's quite about 15 different templates in the invoice. Alrighty. So you've done the heavy lifting. You've got the retainer. You've done the docket disbursement and invoice. Now there's one last step that needs to be done for you to move the eligible trust money from the trust account into the general account so that you can make your money, right? That's how the firm makes their money, is by doing the trust transfer. Of course, in real life, you would do this between your bank accounts. If you're with the same bank for both accounts, then of course you would do an electronic transfer, or you may go to the actual bank and work with the teller. But you need to capture that moment, you know. It's a storytelling, so that particular life event needs to be captured, and we allow you to capture it right within uLaw, okay? So if I were to click on the question mark that you see next to the no pending invoice, right? There's a question mark. This particular pop-up screen pretty much tells you everything you need to know about this invoice, about this matter, what's pending, what's still left. And it clearly tells you one line item. It says pending trust transfer, and it also highlights it to you in red. And if I were to click on the transfer button, this is where we're capturing that live event. So see, you have actually done the trust transfer. We recommend that you come into uLaw, click on both these options. First, check what the amount should be. So it's $528.25. Okay, the $500 for the legal fee, $25 plus taxes for that general disbursement. Because the $50 is already taken away from your trust account.
I think I might have confused it. So
No,
yeah.
Just close and come back. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. There we go.
Yep. So you can see the $528.25. You can tell us when you did it. You can change the date. And now you can tell us from which trust account it went to which general account. Okay? And what mean? So if you did an electronic fund transfer, and if you're an Ontario legal professional, that's something we help you with as well. If I were to hit the transfer button, which is really capturing the moment of this event, knowing that you're an Ontario legal professional and knowing that you've done a trust transfer electronically, we automatically give you a Form 9A document. The Form 9A is something you have to fill out for every legal transfer that you do, eligible trust transfer from the trust to the general account. And we pre-populate this document for you so that you don't have to enter this manually yourself. Okay? It has all the information. What's the client's information? What was this transfer for? Because that's what the auditor wants to know. Why did you move money out of the trust account? Because they're very particular about money coming in and money leaving the trust account. Because every transaction needs to be warranted. Okay? Now if I go back to my accounts, and if I pull down my TD account, it clearly shows you the $528.25. Yeah. And if I go back to the matters, you're going to see the money clearly says the trust receipt for $700. Because the reason it says $700 is because the $50 was taken away for the trust disbursement. Any questions at this stage at all? Or I can move into court forms, which is, I know, is of some interest to the team the other day. Of course, in addition to the legal accounting, which is everything that we did today, disbursement, docketing, trust transfers, we of course have all of the ledgers and journals, right? you can automatically generate these ledgers and journals right from our accounts at the click of a button. We have a compliance button in almost every screen in uLaw, and you can generate your trust ledger, gent ledger, the journal, and most importantly, you could conduct your reconciliations for the month. Yeah, please go ahead, generate that document, yeah, and maybe we'll show them.
It's taking a few seconds to load.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah, this is a practice account that we've been using for ages now. So let's say we do it for a specific date range. You could do this monthly. You can do this. We give it to you in a certain template. Yeah, today's was June 1st. I think automatically takes, yeah, so as you can see for the month of May, this was the, yeah, if you do that for the date range and make it explicitly June 1st, where it would bring up the $700. So you just close out and then, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I'll be able to close it once it finishes loading.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's hit compliance, trust receipt, journal, yeah, and just hit click on the date range and just say, you can do today, I guess. Or I think I would do the date range to be 22nd or the 2nd. What happens is the date, sometimes you just override that date, I would think, from did we backdate that transaction? Anyways, we'll get
yes,
back to this.
actually I did. I backdated it to the middle of May.
Okay, there you go.
Forgot about that.
All right, so yeah, if you do that. There you go. There is your 750 for Steve Martin. You can see it's definitely fail-proof. It's not going to give you the wrong data. So on the 19th of May, you had the $750 coming in for Steve Martin for that particular matter. Came through email transfer. Clearly tells you in the same exact Law Society template that is expected. Okay? All right, so let me then move on to the court forms. Okay, I think there's a question. I think the question is, will the system let you know if a client service provider has not cashed a check yet? Yep. Veron, if you want to maybe handle or answer that question, I know you do quite a bit of this for reconciliations, right? I don't know if you're able to speak through this, but yes, the quick answer, Roxana, is yes, you are able to. At the time of reconciliation, we have outstanding deposits and outstanding checks, and we do give you a report of all the outstanding deposits that are not being disputed. It comes in very handy during our reconciliation process.
Yeah, I won't show an actual example. Since the Playground account, I don't think anyone has reconciled it in a very long time. If I were to attempt a reconciliation, it would take a couple of minutes to load up the information. Years and years of transactions.
That's okay. I will move on to just quickly show them the court forms. And then maybe if we have time, we'll show the quick how to add an expense, which is your forte. So in the matter itself, right, there is this button called Court Forms that you see on the top right. Here, we, for the province of Ontario specifically, have taken silos of practice where there's quite a bit of repetitive information that needs to be filled out from a court form perspective. So let's say for this example of small claims, we're going to say, click on the drop down and let's say a plaintiff's claim. Okay. And you can put your courthouse information. Let's say it's Ottawa. You can just type in Ottawa, and it brings the Ottawa court address. And if I download the court form, what we do is we update our court forms as it gets updated in the courthouse website. So you don't have to go to the website to download this form anymore. We can do that right within uLaw. As soon as something gets changed in the website, we take about 2 weeks to update it into our system because we go through testing and everything else. And that's our service level agreement to our clients. If you notice this Word document for this court form for small claims, again, it's not rocket science, but it certainly is a way of saving you time. We have taken all the pieces of information that we know till now. So we've got the courthouse information, we've got the plaintiff, because if you do a plaintiff's claim, we're assuming that you're representing the plaintiff, right? And you could see it's all your information, Roger Moore. And it also has John Doe, who's the defendant, because I believe we added that as a defendant in the additional. Oh, okay.
We didn't go into additional parties, but would you like me to just do a quick example there?
Yeah, let's do so for you to add the actual additional parties, what we do is we go into this tab called additional parties, and now you can add right here as a defendant. And let's say, okay. You can actually add the defendant's representative. So you can say add party and choose representative of the opponent as the party type. And let's say that's someone else. You can choose this from the database of contacts that you have. And now if I regenerate that document, there you go. It has Adam Silverstone. It's got Philly Fillmore, who's the representative, whatever information we have of that person. Okay? So this is a really handy feature, especially if you're in the business of doing quite a few court forms, depending on the silo of practice that you represent, right? So that's all we wanted to kind of walk you through with regards to the legal matters, the legal accounting, generating all the ledgers and journals happens behind the scene. You're just clicking a button to generate these documents. You don't have to come up with the right template. And that's a promise. The product helps you with the reconciliation process. The product helps you with all the legal bookkeeping and number management. With maybe just a few more minutes left, I will take 5 minutes to just show you the business accounting aspect. So with uLaw, you don't need a QuickBooks, so you don't need any other, I would say, business accounting software to manage all of your office's expenses. It's all on the system. Just we click on the accounts menu option on the left-hand side, which is what we use. Again, I'm using the action button. We have this option to do expenses. So if you click expense, and the second option there is the office expense. Multiple ways of entering the office expense. You can enter one at a time, 10 of them at the same time, 20 of them at the same time. Or if you don't like entering data, with legal professional, we also allow you to import all these transactions from a bank statement where you don't have to enter them one at a time. You know, let's say if you're doing all of this at the end of the month, you can basically export the bank statement that comes from either TD, CIBC, RBC, any other option, as Vero was showing you, and we automatically capture what was done. So you could see a monthly fee of $6, and you could say, oh yeah, there's an office expense. Right? And we even automatically park that in the category of bank charges.
And others you might need to properly categorize yourself. For example, at Best Buy could be many things. Maybe in this case you bought some printer toner. And it's always important to remember to put in your paid too.
Yep.
And just as a quick little mention, I'm just going to head back to that new general account. I'm not sure which one it was, actually.
I believe it was the one.
Let's go. Let's do it this way.
It's further down,
I did
I believe.
backdate them, but really, I just want to bring up the fact that if you do realize you made a mistake somewhere, usually when you click on the dollar amount.
Search button. Yeah, that's fine. There's a search next to the date. You can use that to just search the transaction or remember what it was.
The imported statement I used was a bit old, so it's probably way back there in terms of the date.
We're just showing that's fine. All right. Yeah, I think what we want to show you is, if you made a mistake, correcting it in uLaw is fairly simple. You just click on the amount, you unlock it, edit the item, change that to, and then submit it. As easy as that. Okay? So it's a fairly intuitive system that allows you to do pretty much all of the number crunching that's needed from the various different angles, right? From client side for revenue, from your office perspective for your expenses, and also manages the core forms. It allows you to do all of this through a practice management console where you're not creating these ledgers and journals. And it allows you to generate all of the Law Society documents, marketing documents, CRA documents. So if you click briefly on document generation barrel, right at the bottom you're going to see we give you the balance sheet, the trial balance, the revenue expense, profit and loss, everything that you need even from a CRA's perspective of managing your own business and the taxes. Okay? So with that, I'll pause. We'll both pause and we'll take a minute to answer any questions that you may have had. We don't want to overwhelm you. There's a lot more that we can show you, but we'd like to hopefully pause here and take any questions. I really hope this was of course, a teaser and an informational session to you and everyone who has joined us today, just to give you a handle for, typically to begin with the tasks that you have to entail to get this done, but also figuring out how easy it has become to do so using the uLaw system. Of course, once the COVID situation does settle down, what I do regularly is visit the institutions that we teach at, be it Seneca or Humber.
Not seeing any questions, Praveen.
Not sure what point of my monologue I got kicked out. But I think we should call it a wrap. Veronique, do you have any other points to add, or can we just stop the recording maybe?
Yeah, we'll stop the recording.